Welcome to The Ambitious Introvert, the leading growth and development podcast for the estimated 56% of us who recharge by going inwards. Our purpose is to help you manage your social battery and own your energy so you can reach your true potential in your business, your career, or your life. I'm your host, Emma-Louise Parks, a former air traffic controller, entrepreneur, and a success coach with over 15 years experience. I've supported hundreds of introverts like you who dream big and are ready to take action towards making those dreams a reality without compromising their energy in the process. Each week, my guests and I will be sharing tips, tricks, and hacks on how to build your resilience, master your mindset, and cultivate self-leadership. Skills that will help you reach your goals without trying to be someone that you're not. We'll also be sharing valuable lessons and insights from our own personal experiences, all focused on one thing: helping you own your energy to reach your potential. Hello, welcome back to the Ambitious Introvert podcast. I'm Emma-Louise, and I do feel like I say this every guest episode, but maybe that's because I've had such an amazing lineup of guests recently. But I loved this conversation so much with this week's guest. It was nourishing. It was permission giving. I was waving my hands around. Not that you'll see that because we don't use the video, because that's what I do when I get excited. And I know that there is so much in here. It's such a rich, deep conversation that I had no idea Jordan Gill and I were going to have. So Jordan is a longtime entrepreneur. She's the founder of Systems Saved Me, and we have a lot of mutual connections. And a friend of both of ours connected us a long time ago saying that we would get on really well. Jordan would be a great guest for the podcast. And as you'll hear in the episode, there's quite a bit of to and fro in for various reasons, life, business, all the things. And we're only just recording now, about 18 months later, which was absolutely perfect because I don't think we'd have had this conversation if we'd have recorded soon after we were introduced. So I came into this interview with the expectation of, great, Jordan is someone that leans more on the introverted side. She's got limited energy for various reasons, as you'll hear about in the episode. So we can talk about how she manages her time and her energy while she's busy running a business. But it was so much more than that. We touch on shame. We touch on judgment. We touch on making decisions that might not be popular with other people. We talk about using your wisdom. We talk about saying no to things that might seem good and shiny on the outside, but affect your energy. And the overall theme of this conversation, when I listen back to it, is being unapologetic, which is an energy that I love. It's a term I think can get a little bit overused. But when I listen back to how Jordan talks about the way she runs her business, the way she manages her time, the decisions that she makes, what she apportions her money to be spent on, it's very, very unapologetic. She's like, I'm doing it this way. It works for me. That's it. No apologizing. So like I say, there's so much we cover in this, and it's really interesting because it's the type of conversation that sometimes I feel only introverts can have, where we cover such a broad spectrum of topics, but we manage to also go really deep. So there's no surface level small talk. Jordan was all in from the second we hit record, and she shared vulnerably and beautifully, which I am thrilled about. So without further ado, I will let you listen in. I really hope that you find this, like I say, as permission given as I did. And I know that for so many of you, you will recognize so much of yourselves in what Jordan is describing with her energy. So without further ado, please enjoy my chat with the amazing Jordan Gill. So this episode has been, I think, about 18 months in the making. Does that sound about right?
It does. I'm embarrassed to acknowledge that, but yes.
Which is a testament to a lot of things we were saying as we hit record. There's never any rush. I feel like in business and in life, some people are like, oh, we've got to do this. And there's this like urgency. Well, no, because we're not going anywhere. Our podcast's not going anywhere. Like the business isn't going anywhere. So I'm like, I can wait till the right time.
Yeah.
And I would say we're also both very fiercely protective of calendars and our time.
Yes, that too. So that'll usually add some time onto it. But again, I think that like timing is always on your side. And sometimes you think like, oh, this is the time. But, as you there's definitely actually another interview I did recently that was a little over a year in the making as well. And I'm like, you know what? I'm actually really glad that it was a year in the making because of where I was at about that particular situation. I had so much more depth to say versus talking about something that was very in the moment versus, okay, I've had a year to like process and I can talk about it from like a better and healed place.
And it's like divine timing, or if
Totally.
people are not into divinity, then it's just everything working out perfectly. You will love, because obviously your business system saved me. We had a ClickUp task. Every time I batched the podcast, we had an individual task, which was email Trina so that I could keep sending her the updated link in the hope that something worked out. And then it did. And here we are.
Yes, exactly. So, that's so funny. Well, listen, now you've been able to cross that off the to-do list now. Now you don't have to have that recurring task anymore.
I'm very, very excited. I mean, nothing makes me happier than clicking complete
Yes.
in ClickUp. It's like, it's a great feeling. And it's obviously great to finally get to chat to you. So thank you for that.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So you are celebrating, oh my gosh, 8 years in business.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Goodness. I remember when I first started my business and it was like I started in 2016. And when it was like 2017 or 2018, you like whisper like, yeah, I've only been in business like a year, like 2 years. And I'm like, I've been in business since 2016, y'all. I've seen some stuff. It's been a while. And so thinking about where, I'm in the online marketing space. So where the industry was in 2016 and where it is now is so fascinating to me, and seeing the maturation stage of what it has become is actually really cool. And I think breeds a lot more innovation and creativity, which is where I thrive personally. And so, with the age of the business, like comes a lot more understanding, perspective, and for me, being able to be a lot more grounded and comfortable in my own skin, which I know we'll talk about, as being somebody who is lower energy. And I'm like an ambivert. So I'm like in the middle-ish, but I definitely lean more towards introvert as far as like where I get my energy from. But, I think that a lot of times we can see that as a hindrance when I think it's a superpower because I'm a great listener. And that has helped me in so many ways in business and that's not to say extroverts don't have their pros as well, but I actually really enjoy the fact that I am an ambivert or an introvert because it allows me to gather more information and it may take me a little bit longer to make a decision, but it usually is a decision that is most aligned with my values and my perspective and the direction I want to go. So it all ends up working out.
I feel like that depth of processing is quite often overlooked because we talk about, I'm an introvert. I need to be on my own to recharge my energy. And maybe I don't love, overstimulation and all that kind of thing. But then that depth of processing is important. And I think it lends itself so well to certain roles. And as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, like you say, you don't want to necessarily be just going off the first thing that you think of and making all this, like maybe it takes a little longer. I have definitely felt slower in my business journey than some people say that I've been in masterminds, but they seem to have an idea and then they're like, go. And the next day they're doing it. I'm like, whoa, I just need to sit with this for a little while.
Totally. And there's something to learn. I think that I feel like I've gotten faster as the years have gone on, maybe because I'm around a lot of people who are the quick starts, if you will. But I also think that I keep a very thorough understanding of just what's gotten me to the 8 years in business. And so my decision making doesn't take as long because I'm able to lean on my experience or lean on past perspectives that then now I'm still not snappy like a lot of visionaries, but I will definitely say I'm faster now than I was when I started.
And I think that experience is an important thing that we don't necessarily think about, because I can see, I don't, I'm not going to say mistakes, because I don't think we make mistakes. I think we just learn from them. But now, if there's something that needs plugging in the business, if it's like a piece of tech or a new team member or something, I'm so much more efficient at seeing what it is. Whereas before I might have chosen the wrong thing because I'm like, oh, I need this and I need this. And that's just experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too that, when you're in the processing mode, I'm actually a speed reader. So I read really fast and I can retain information. So, and that comes from I remember my mom, we had these literally cat litter boxes where I would go to the library and I would fill the cat litter box with books, like so many books stacked, and I would check them all out. And that would last me like a week. And so I've just always been somebody who can understand things very quickly and then be able to turn around and simplify them. So with that skill, also, it's almost not speed listening, but I do listen to things fast, like if I'm on podcasts and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I've got a 1.5 it.
1.5. I've got it. For sure. And so again, the introverted side of me, that's the processor. Like, again, I can take so much more information and again, a longer period of time, but because I have so many more perspectives to look from, then again, I just feel like I'm able to make those better, well-rounded decisions for myself, which feels really good to me.
So this leads beautifully into my next question about designing your business and your schedule around your energy and your introversion, because you love VIP days. And I know VIP days are a little bit Marmite in the online space. So for anyone listening that's like, what? Just explain how you work in a VIP day. And, after you've just said that, I can see totally why this works so well for you.
Totally. Yeah. So how I define VIPAs is that they are at least a 4-figure investment, so $1,000 or more, and they last between 3 to 8 hours, usually within a 24-hour period of time. And it brings your client from, an A to Z kind of process or system. So for me, I started out doing VIP days around systems. So I would build people's client management processes in Dubsado or ActiveCampaign or PandaDoc or whatever. And I would do it in a single day. And it was so much fun, again, because I'm able to gather information very quickly, right? And then I'm able to synthesize and then spit out the most simplified version of people's client relationship management processes. So I did that for a few years. And then people were noticing that I seem to look like I'm not working much. It's like the best way to put it, I guess. And they were like, what are you doing over there? Like, you seem to have a lot of time and you're puzzling, you're going to a lot of conferences. Like, what's happening? And so I was like, yeah, I work with clients 4 days a month. So, besides that, I do some marketing, obviously, but generally speaking, I am not working a ton. And that also has to do with the fact that I struggle with 3 chronic illnesses. I have celiac disease, chronic fatigue, and hypothyroidism. And so plus I'm a projector human design for my human designers. And so I'm not really meant to work a lot. And that's not coming from an entitled place. That's not coming from I'm better than working or I'm above working. It's not coming from that place. It's truly I have limited energy. And so I have to be very cautious about how I exert that energy, because then I run out of it really quickly and then I'm done for the day. So when it came to VIP days, what was beautiful about that type of schedule for me was 1 day a week. I'm going hardcore and I'm 6 hours with a client and then I get to rest for quite a few days. I usually would do 1 or 2 days of marketing as well during the week, which meant I was connecting over a virtual chat or attending an event or doing Instagram or something. And then other than that, I'm done. I'm offline. And so that really supported my needs, my boundaries, and also allowed me to be able to support my family in a lot of different times. There was different family members at different times that needed more of a caregiving role. And so I was able to be in that support role, which also brought me a lot of joy because that stuff can be really stressful. So, I did VIP days for a long time, and then people were like, what the heck is happening over here? And so I decided to start teaching them. That was a wild time. We're like kind of rounding out of that era, I suppose, but I still love talking about them. But for the last 3 years, I ran a program called Done in a Day, and I had over 550, I want to say, students go through that program in about 3 years. It's a wild time. You want to talk about speed and momentum? Like that was it's a lot, but it was a lot of fun. And I got to help support a ton of other people who are caregivers or chronic illness warriors or just needing more time back in their business for whatever reason. And I really, like, if you are somebody who can't sit at your desk for a significant amount of time, yeah, you're not going to want to do VIP days, and you don't have to. But if you're somebody who's like, I kind of do best in spurts, like you're a sprinter, not a marathoner, those sorts of things, like, then you're going to love VIP days. And it could really be supportive of, again, your energy capacity.
I have a lot of projector clients, and I think it's because a lot of the marketing around introversion is about the energy, and they recognize that, generally because you've got so many open centers, the sensitivity, the overstimulation, like all of that stuff. Yes. And I see it so much in how they work in sprints. And one of my clients, she was wild. She would do in 2 hours what the average person would get done in 8 because it would just kind of like flow out of her. And then she'd be like, right now I'm done for the week. And I'm like, that's great, but you've got to own that. And when I talk about owning your energy, that's the whole point. I have done 21 hours of meetings since the 10th of January, and it's the 24th of January.
Bless you.
Jordan's looking horrified, but I'm a generator.
Okay. I was just going to ask you.
So it's okay, because some of my project clients say that, how can you do this? And how can you do these things? I'm like, because I'm a generator. It's a different energy.
Yeah, exactly. Bless you. My husband is a generator, and you can tell because he just be Energizer bunny. And I'm like, I don't know where it comes from. And he looks at me just like, where does it go?
You like even it out a little bit. Where does it go? I love it.
It's just funny.
So, like you say, trial and error led you to, this thing really works for me. And it feels really good. And it gives me the lifestyle that I want. I think there's so much conditioning around, I have to work in a certain way. Like, I know when I started my business 5 years ago, I still felt very much like, I should work during the day and I should work in the week and all of these things. And I was like, why? Like, I don't have to. I work whenever I want. Like, client calls, a little bit different. Most people don't want them at the weekend. But I think we have this conditioning of like, it needs to be a certain way, or I need to be at my desk, or I need to be doing this. And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. But you do have to kind of expand your horizons to be like, I get to design it now.
Totally. And the possibilities are endless. So that can feel really stifling in the sense of, oh my gosh, what is that? Analysis paralysis, right? Yeah. It's just like, okay,
too much choice.
I can do anything. Yeah. Then, oh my gosh, like there was, again, I'm celiac. So normally when I go to like a bakery or something, they have like a whole separate case and there's like 2 or 3 options for me. And it's great. And like, that feels really nice because that's not that many choices. And then I went to New York City and there was a certified gluten-free facility bakery, posh bakery. If anyone is ever in New York City, it is like the most beautiful and also terrifying thing for a celiac, because again, I'm used to having 2 or 3 choices only. And I walk into this bakery and I had a funnel cake for the first time in almost like over a decade, before my diagnosis. And I had a funnel cake as a gluten-free person. And that was like, I almost like cried. I was just like, what is happening? Because
I'm moving to New York. I need this every day.
Literally. My husband was like, because he was, he gets it, but he doesn't. And at the same time, recently we've had to move our son to be gluten-free because it's his inflammation definitely gets wrapped up. And so my husband, when we went to New York to that bakery, he was like, oh my gosh, we should franchise them and bring them to Dallas. And like, he's on this kick right now. I'm like, yeah, like, let's do that. And he's like, no, really, I'm serious. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, in due time.
If you could do that in then we're recording this at the end of January. If you could do it in the next 5 weeks,
by the time you get there,
before I come to Dallas, that would be amazing. I am not celiac, but I'm gluten intolerant, and I notice I notice it.
Yeah.
Every so often, it's okay. But if it builds up or if it's a few consecutive days in a row, the inflammation is real.
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone kind of, it's a lot of, well, the UK, I think, is a little bit different where y'all kind of cut off the amount of gluten that's used or like the heightenedness of gluten because it's just a genetically modified, in the US, it's a genetically modified version of gluten. So like, you know, the levels are different, but in America, it's awful. It's like so high and really a lot. But I've noticed in Europe, like I can tolerate a lot more in Europe because y'all's levels, like you're not genetically modifying the gluten hormone, which is nice. So I'm like convinced I should just move to Europe, but it'll be a while before we do that.
And then franchise that bakery over here as well.
Exactly. It's all going to happen.
You get a 10-year plan. I love
exactly.
it. So you mentioned your son there, and this is something that I wanted to touch on because I don't have kids. It's not something that I have experience with. And some of my clients do. Running a business is hard. Being a parent is hard. These things pull at your time and energy. And as you've said, you've got health issues. You're kind of more on the introverted scale. All of these different factors kind of pulling you in different directions.
Yeah.
How do you balance it?
Well, I have the unique experience of I was a single person when I started my business. And then, what was that, 2016? And then I met my husband in 2018. And my son is my bonus son, but he recently told me that I don't have to say bonus anymore. So that's like a new thing for me. It's really sweet. But I kind of came into this Insta family, right? So and we have full custody of him. So it was a very interesting experience going from single and freedom and all this spaciousness, so much extra time to, oh my gosh, I have 2 people now, like 0 to 2, not 0 to 1. And that is a lot. And even love languages wise, Colin and I were talking the other day. Colin is my son, and he expressed that he's a physical touch and words of affirmation love language. And I am a quality time love language, and physical touch is my absolute lowest. And so that also, like you would talk about stimulation.
Yeah.
Oh, that one's hard. And every time he comes over and touches me, I'm like, this is not to like hurt you or to overstimulate or like to, overwhelm you. And I just have to so that one has been, I would say probably the hardest adjustment for me is just like, I'm used to just give me my space. I'm good. And so welcoming him in, it's okay that he's here next to me for hours on end, cuddling with a movie or whatever. And again, it's not because I don't love him. It's just, again, it's a stimulation thing I'm noticing, or he'll listen to the TV so loud. So I actually just bought myself these like loop ear things.
Loops are fantastic.
Oh my gosh. I wore them to Dave & Buster's the other day.
Oh,
why did I not have these before? Like from an overstimulation perspective, for those of y'all who are listening and don't know, loop is like basically a earplug that can reduce the amount of decibels. And there's different levels of ones. I have one that like is for like the talking one, like you're going to be talking to people, but the ambiance is loud. And then there's one that will just like shut it all down. And so that's also been really helpful. It's very practical takeaway. But, parenting is a lot. And there are days where, I have a long day. And then a good example of this is I just did my conference in September of last year. And, I just done day 1. I'm exhausted. I told Marcus, like, you're on bedtime duty. Usually I do bedtime. And I was just like, I can't. And then they come home and Colin is really excited to talk with me and, wants me to do bedtime. And I'm just like, okay, like I'm going to do bedtime with him. And then it goes into, I don't know why anyone is having sex. Just like, how does this happen to me? Like, and I know it's coming from
and how does this happen right now?
Like timing and him, just like, it doesn't even matter. And I'm just like, I literally just got to have like over 100 women in this room and like do this really awesome stuff. And then I come home and this is the conversation that it's just, I'm like, this is my life, and So parenting is a definitely a personal thing, but for me, it's definitely caused me to better, even more than before, better utilize my time in those focus bursts and whatnot. And again, I also am like a bit of a night owl. So while I will do stuff during the day, like nighttime is when like I'm firing on all cylinders. So I will just like do my deepest work like super late at night, like 10 to midnight, 10 to 1. And I'm okay with that, like versus me judging myself over it. So I'm no expert. I'm still figuring it out. And I guess, 5 years into it at this point. When I met him, he was 4 and he's 9 now. But I think that too, when you have these extra persons that you're in charge of, whether it's caregiving, whether it's children, whether it's whatever, like one thing that I've had to be really careful of is listening to advice from like single dudes, like, like they just have oodles of time and no responsibility. And like, I just can't do what they can do because they spend all this time in like thought provoking, stuff. And I'm like, when am I sitting down in silence? When is that happening? You tell me, like, so there's certain elements to where I have to just be careful of like, if someone is very much about the hustle and like able to work 10 to 12 hours, like that's just not, I can't do that. It's not about choice. It's about like, I will literally be sick, and I have been sick kind of after like the detangling of, or kind of just making a really big shift from what I was doing for 3 years to what I'm doing now. Like my body is catching up, and I've been sick since the beginning of December. I had COVID in October. And so the physicality and energetic crumbling has been happening. And so, it's like, okay, yeah, I worked way too much. And I'm having to deal with the consequences of that. So yeah, I'm no expert, but I'm trying to figure it out as best I can.
There is a lot of rhetoric particularly in the online marketing space, but for anyone listening that isn't in that space, in growth and personal development in general, that is fairly masculine. And some elements of it are very useful, but some elements can be super detrimental, because so many of my clients think they've got to be getting up at 5 a.m. to do this big morning routine. And, they've got to accomplish a million things before anyone else in the house gets up. But then when we look at the fact that they're introverts, or they're limited energy, they're highly sensitive, maybe they're projector or reflector even. And then we're like, well, that you've just used up your entire energy for the day. You haven't done anything yet, but you've got up and you've, done weights and cardio and read 10 pages of a book and drank your bulletproof coffee, and that's great. But now you're spent.
Mm-hmm. Spent all that time. And I had to really notice what I was actually talking to some folks yesterday about, how I have a house manager. And house managers, like people know about like having a house cleaner, or they know about like estate managers, which is like really, really wealthy people having somebody run their entire estate. But a house manager is somebody who, again, is helping with just the day-to-day of managing the house. So laundry, meal prep, grocery store shopping, making sure that if we're running out of toilet paper, it gets restocked. Our house manager does take our son to school in the morning, because me and my husband both aren't morning people. So she does that. And it's been so wonderful and game changing. And it's funny because she's been with us for 2 years. And my husband literally 2 days ago was just like, man, coming home to a house that is like taken care of, but like you don't have to take care of it and I don't have to take care of it. Like we have way less arguments than like ever. We are just a lot happier because we are able to spend the time, because a lot of times it's like, okay, well, I have to choose between laundry or spending time with my family. And it's like, well, Johnny doesn't have any underwear, so I guess it has to be laundry, right? So I just didn't want to have to make that decision anymore. And so it has been such a beautiful blessing and privilege to be able to have that position in our household, because it lends itself to the fact that I have limited energy, but it also helps me to fill my cup of quality time, because that was also the issue, was like my love language, like my cup is not full. Like I'm not feeling loved. like all this stuff. And it was coming down to these choices. And so it's like, yes, I do have to pay somebody to do this. We don't really have a village here in Dallas. And so that's a choice that we had to make. And it's been one of the best choices for my family and has given us so much time and just like quality of life that we really enjoy. So that also is something that thinking about people's schedules, energy levels, like you're like, it's laundry, but like laundry is energy. It's like, I'm having to put it's like, I have to sort the things and no, that's energy. And so if I only have limited energy coins and I'm putting them in the laundry bucket, then of course my love cup is going to be empty because I don't even have any time to, cash in on the energy side. So it's again, that may feel overindulgent to people, that may feel silly, that may feel like I got a comment the other day that was saying, well, like you're basically paying somebody to be the mom. Like, how dare you? Right. And that's okay. People have their opinions. And, I think too that there's levels of people pleasing that we all kind of have to shed. And like, I don't care how much commentary people have about me having a house manager because it is the best investment for me and my family. And I feel so grounded in that decision that like I could get stoned, in the town square about it. And I still would be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to change it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so beneficial to me.
Two things. Firstly, I'm going to link the Love Languages book in the show notes just in case anyone hasn't read it because we're talking and they're going to be like, what? Like you have to know your love languages. It's game changing.
Please do. Yes.
I had no idea that this conversation was going to go this direction because I didn't know you'd had a house manager, but I got interviewed for a media feature last week. And one of the things they asked me is, what would I have changed if I could go back 10 years ago? What would I have changed? And 10 years ago, I was still in my career. I was an air traffic controller. I was working shifts, incredibly stressful job.
Yeah.
I got paid well.
Yeah.
I said what I would have changed is I would have outsourced so much more. I had a cleaner come in twice a month for 2 hours, but I would have done, and I said that I would have had someone to make sure that the toilet rolls were always topped up, that the dog's food was always there. Like, so I didn't have to go, oh, do I need to buy bleach next time I go to the supermarket? Because these things are bandwidth. They take up your bandwidth. And at the time, I wasn't expanded enough. My money mindset would have gone, that's expensive. That's going to cost me a couple of £100 a month or whatever it would have been a decade ago, even though I could easily have afforded it. Whereas now I'm like, oh man, if I was on that salary, I would totally be outsourcing those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a mindset shift. And when I first mentioned to Marcus that I want a house manager, and actually I think it was like my third date with Marcus, I let him know, I'm like, listen, if you're wanting a domesticated woman who loves to cook, clean, do all that stuff, I'm not it. And we can literally just leave this table and just be good to go. And he's just like, what is happening? But he was like, I'm okay with that. Like, I don't need a more domesticated woman. And I was like, excellent. So I had to just lay that out because even as a single person, I did have a cleaner for a couple hours. There were times in my life that I did have a chef if I was really, really drained of energy who would come and like cook batches of soup for me and stuff like that. So I was used to that at a certain degree. And then, when we got married, then it was just like, oh my gosh, I hate that we're talking about like splitting things and who's doing what. Like this just is like exhausting to me. And so it's like, what if we get a house manager? And he was like, are you joking me right now? Like, who does this? And like, what is, like, you're making stuff up, like, whatever. And I was like,
who does this? Like it's Downton Abbey or something. Is this what he's thinking? Like the butler's going to come in.
Exactly. And so I was like, here's the deal. Can you just give me 2 months with somebody? And if you don't like it, then we can figure something else out. Like, and so I found our current house manager on care.com, and she's been with us for 2 years. And literally my husband's just like, I don't want her to ever leave us. And I was like, I know, because it's just so much peace of mind. And again, giving us that time back that we wouldn't normally have. Like we get to focus so much more on Colin. our relationship, like our own individual needs of like, if he wants to go hang out with friends or if I want to go read a book, like whatever. It's just like, we have that spaciousness. And even though our lives are still very full, it is something that now is so non-negotiable for us that it really, at this point, we can't imagine not having it. We just can't.
Quite often people don't necessarily think about what they could outsource from a personal point of view, especially entrepreneurs, because we're so used to outsourcing and bringing experts in our business or getting things off our plate or getting systems set up that do that. So I don't have to carry in my head for 3 months. I need to email Trina to try and get Jordan on the podcast, like, because it just, because I've shed that into my project management system and then it just pops up. But it's the same thing because it's giving you back energy and it's giving you back bandwidth. And I bet a lot of business owners, if I said, oh, you're going to, invest $40 an hour for 20 hours a month on a VA, they'd go, yeah, well, obviously. Yeah. But if I said you're going to invest that money in something domestic, they'd probably be like, no, that's expensive.
I know. Yeah. And they don't equate how much actual bandwidth not thinking about, because you don't think that it's a lot, because a lot of us have been conditioned. And even Marcus's mom was very uncomfortable with it at first, very uncomfortable with it. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she was like, good for you, because like I know what that is like, and it's a lot. And my mom was, again, not working. She was a stay-at-home mom. So she had a little bit more spaciousness to take that stuff on. But her knowing my ambitions, she was just like, yeah, no, like you're just not going to be able to do both of those things. So you will get, strange or uncomfortability from those of the people in your life that you're closest to, because there is this expectation or even identity around like, you should want to keep your home and you should want to, cook dinner for your husband and have it ready when he gets back. Like you should want to do these things. And I've always kind of been a bit against the grain. And if you want to do those things, amazing. Like if that lights you up, please keep doing that. Definitely not the message for you. The message is for people that doesn't light you up and that doesn't feel good, and you need more bandwidth back and capacity back to do these other things. There's a book and a documentary called Fair Play. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay. Yeah, it's actually also like a card game, and it talks about basically the invisible work that women have to carry around, usually around a lot of the domestic needs, like, laundry, meal prep, cleaning, making sure the kids are where they're supposed to be, and making sure birthday parties, you have gifts for the kids and all the things. And basically you want to, for the card game, take all of the cards, which each card represents a task that has to be done, or a part of the invisible work. And you want to do a card game where the cards are split evenly between you and your partner. And so, again, that may not be the reality of some people's households, but if you're the person that is taking on a lot of the invisible work and you have a very aggressive career or you have a business that needs you, I would encourage you to really think about, if I didn't have to think about prepping my son's lunch every day, or if he has clean khaki shorts for his uniform, or if the toilet paper is running out and now I got to go to Target, like I don't have to think about that stuff anymore. Like I don't remember the last time I had to think about when, oh gosh, we're running out of coffee or we're running out of toilet paper, or like, does Colin have his basketball uniform clean? Like, I don't have to think about any of those things because that is somebody else's responsibility. And she's so lovely. Again, she's been with us for 2 years. And I keep thinking, man, she's going to like not want to do this. And it's going to be a really big issue for us. But she even spoke, she's like wanting to go full time. Like she's not full time with us now, but she's wanting to take on more responsibility because she really enjoys the work. She gets to like listen to her podcast. She's very introverted. So she loves it. And again, we think, who would love to do this? I'm torturing somebody to hire them to do this. That is not the case. That is not the case. You could be taking away something that somebody could really enjoy. She loves organizing. She redoes our pantry like once a month because she just just likes to make sure it's organized. Like, and she just has a joy about that stuff, you know? So it's like, oh
Everyone
my
in their zone of
gosh.
genius.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One of my clients is very creative. And when she got an OBM in her business, she felt bad given the OBM stuff to do, because all of the stuff that she was given her, the stuff that she hated, that really stressed her out, you know, like it was an agency. So it was managing client workflows and invoicing and all of this. And I was like, you have an OBM now, like give it to her. And she's like, but I feel bad. And I was like, but she loves doing it. She's like, how can anyone love doing this? I was like, no, I guarantee you, like, this is why she started this business, because the stuff that you hate is literally what she loves.
Exactly. Like, and we need to stop thinking everyone around us is like us. Like, we all have things that we enjoy. And so why not be able to give a position to somebody who loves organizing pantries and like cooking these really delicious Thai chili soups that I get to enjoy, that have like the most depth of flavor. And like, if I were to cook it, it would be basic, you know, like all these things. And so yeah, I'm really passionate about that, about people, whether you get a house manager or even you can start with a cleaner and then like work your way up. Cause I know it like feels like a thing, but yeah, I'm big about outsourcing in the home, just because, especially if two people, or even again, you as a single person, again, I had a cleaner and a chef who would come in, and if you just want that bandwidth back in that capacity, like I would look to outsource in your home.
I love it. I'm very glad that the conversation went this way. See, this is why it took us 18 months ago. You didn't have this the full experience. I know, right?
I don't know for a little bit. I know. Here we go. There it is.
The reason.
We found it.
Before we wrap up, I do want to touch on what you've been talking about a lot in business. And even if you're listening and you're not a business owner, this is still kind of relevant, because I think it's really interesting. Your motto of rest without sacrifice and still being able to make revenue has led you to a path of something that a lot of introverts are very against. And that is reels and video marketing in your business.
Oh, yes. The dreaded video. And
yeah, that everyone seems to hate.
Yeah. And I get why they hate it, because there's definitely elements of like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna have to do all this rigmarole or stuff to be presentable on video. I got to make sure my background's okay. I got to do my hair. I got to do all this stuff. And I realized, again, because of my hypothyroidism, I'm always cold. So I'm always wearing sweatshirts. I always have socks on. I'm always like in the coziest of cozy stuff on my day-to-day basis. And I just was like, I could go the route that everybody else is doing, where again, it's very polished. You're looking for like the most aesthetic corner in your house and whatever else. Or like, what if I just show up how I am? It's a little bit scary for sure. But actually what I found is that I've been able to have way more self-expression, and it feels really good to show up how I am, because then I'm actually going to attract people who are aligned with those values of mine, and like see the fact that like I don't have to pretend like I'm cute every day. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't have to put on this front that I have it all together. And that's refreshing to people. And I'm not saying you have to do the same style of videos as me, but why I do reels, and if you were to go to look at my page, most of them are either, again, I'm just like working and I've got words over it, or I do voiceover reels where I'm like kind of chopping up and editing different scenes, and then I'm just talking over it with voiceover versus talking directly at the camera. And those, again, do really well for me because I'm showing people my values versus having to tell my values. And anytime you're like talking at someone, I think that it's a missed opportunity to have actually a dialogue versus a monologue. And for me, it opens up the conversation about so much more than business, because we're humans. Like we just talked about all this house manager stuff, love languages, all of that. And that's going to bring about, I don't want to say like more connection than business, but a lot of times we like to do business with people who, one, you can tell that they are like filled with joy in the work that they do. Like we're just attracted to that. But then secondly, somebody that we can connect with from a values perspective, like, oh, they, value rest and revenue, right? Not just the hustle and grind, or they value whatever. And I can show that in my content without me having to get all gussied up and present myself in some way, shape, or form. Now, if you are geared toward a more professional, luxurious, even like that's your tone, then yeah, maybe there is some polish and shine that needs to happen because again, it's the like attract like sort of thing. But I'm somebody who like, if we're going to do a VIP day together, we're both coming in our joggers with our fuzzy socks and we'll DoorDash some pad thai and like have a grand old time, So I don't want to have to feel like I have to overproduce or overcome my normalcy to attract people. Like if that's what you need or want from me in order to work with me, then like we probably just shouldn't work together, and that's okay. And like I can point you to a direction that's better fit for you. So that's what I've really been enjoying. And I want more people to release this overcomplication of video because people do need to see you, right? To want to work with you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be video. A video is a good expression of that. And more people are taking longer to make decisions in their business because they want to be more sure. But one of the ways you can speed that up is through video and is through sharing things about you that could connect you to the people that you want to work with. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to show people that you don't have to overcomplicate and have all the shiny stuff. That you can just literally I have plenty of B-roll, which is just literally me filming myself and not talking to the camera. Plenty of B-roll where I'm like sitting in my bed working and I've got text over it. Like, and that's my reality a lot of times. So I want to just simplify and have people have some more fun when it comes to Reels specifically, to be able to bring about more opportunities, more clients, more leads in a way that is more values aligned and attracting more people who are interested in working with you for your values and not for the glitz and the glam and the shine.
It's so funny that you said working from bed, because something that I've shared on Instagram stories before is I will quite often work from bed if I'm just doing some admin or content creation because my bedroom is sunny, I'm cold, I want to sit under the covers, I don't want to be at the desk, I've got like neck injury, I don't want to sit here if I want to sit at the desk for 40 hours a week, I would take a job.
Yes.
And the amount of people that are like, thank you, because this is so permission given. And of course, people going, oh, that's disgusting. Like, I would never work from bed. Great. That's fine. But
totally.
The amount of people that definitely align with it because they're like, yeah, I worked from bed yesterday, or, oh my God, this is a great idea. I'm going to do it too.
Yep. And it gives other people permission. And I think too, when you're like, I love that you're just like, yeah, like I'm going to work from bed. And like, if you think it's disgusting, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a level of groundedness that you have to have and self-awareness and understanding to where you feel comfortable sharing something about how you work or your life. And if people don't like it, like you being okay with that. And that's a whole thing in and of itself, right? There's so much hate on Instagram, and Reels are really easy to be like a thing that people throw in your face of just like, oh my gosh, Reels, people pointing and dancing, like these are so stupid, right? And then people are like, oh, like you can't build a whole marketing strategy on Reels. Like it has to be these 176 different things that you have to do for this marketing strategy to be whatever. And I'm like, no, really, like I'm strategic about my Reels, but like all I'm doing is Reels. I'm not doing like barely any stories. I'm not going live. I'm not doing posts. I'm not doing carousels. I'm not on any other platform posting. Literally, I'm just doing Reels. And I'm able to get the leads, the sales, the connections, the collaboration opportunities that I want to. So like, why do we need to overcomplicate it? And maybe some people need all the stuff, right? All of the marketing. But for me, that's not my truth. And that's totally okay if like you do need all those things. But also a lot of times us as introverts, like we we think that, again, if we put our voices out there, and again, if you're an HSP or highly sensitive person, then it could be really, really scary to make a stance like that and get backlash, right? And there are people who need to hear you say it. And I cannot express more whenever I'm feeling some type of way about a decision. And it's not because I need external validation, but it's just like, oh, there's somebody who is out there doing this and like they're okay and they're like happy and they're like doing well, you know? And so if you're experiencing that kind of joy or that kind of groundedness, like share that. And there will be people who come. And again, the bigger your success is, the more of it is going to come to you and the more misunderstood you're going to be. And that's really hard. And I've had to do a lot of, unraveling of that. But I realize my life is more than my business and I don't need the validation of other people to tell me if the way I'm living my life is good or bad or right or wrong, because I'm happy with my relationship. I'm happy with my kiddo. I'm happy with the way that my life has been set up. And that's meant for me. It's not meant for everybody to just have the same life as me. So yeah, that's why I'm doing my reels, is showing people that we don't have to overcomplicate this. Like we can actually have some fun with our marketing, and you can do that by just filming yourself on a daily basis.
Oh, this has been such a joy. I am thrilled it took us forever to get this in the calendar because, like we said, probably the perfect time to chat about it. I'm going to drop all of your links in the show notes. So whether you're a business owner or not, go and follow Jordan, because get some normalcy in your social media.
Very normal. Yes.
Get some real life. And if you are a business owner and you're, worried about video, she's the person to follow. So we'll put all of that in the show notes. Yeah. Before we wrap up, I'm just going to ask you one question that I ask all of my guests at the end. Can you share with us just one way that you make sure that you consistently own your energy so that you can perform at your best?
Yeah, I'll definitely share something that I have put a stance on this year that is kind of still scary for me. And I'm feeling my people-pleasing tendencies kind of roll back up. And that is that I'm not participating this year in anyone else's launch-specific collaborations, meaning that I only want to do collaborations that can accommodate my schedule. So guest podcasting, because I can choose the time that works best for me, or doing like a JV webinar where it's like, well, we get to pick the date on my calendar that works for us. Doing more of those things rather than, again, launch specific, meaning like a summit, a bundle. And because then it's like, okay, well, I have to do these 2 or 3 promotional things and they have to be at a certain time. And then I gotta it just feels out of control for me, especially again, knowing that there's my ebbs and my flows and I do cycle syncing and all that stuff. So I just want to be in more flow. So I have had to put the hard stop. There's a few things that were already planned for Q1 that I'm having to stay committed to. But generally speaking, in order to own my energy, own my calendar and all that stuff, I am saying no, regardless of who's asking me. It could be like my bestest of friends. I am not doing any launch specific promotions. And again, that's a lot of opportunities that could be seen, could be this, could be that. But at the same time, if I'm going to be energetically unaligned or stressed, then it's actually not worth it. So that's something I've put into place recently. And I'm actually really grounded and happy about it. There's some uncomfortability of like people knowing I've done summits or things before and it feeling very personal for them. And I let them know it's not personal to you. I'm not telling you not to do a summit in general, or that summits are bad. Just I've decided that that's not aligned with how I want to run my calendar. So that's something very tactical that I'm doing this year.
Thank you for sharing that, because as business owners, especially newer in business, I think there's a lot of pressure on, oh, it's a visibility opportunity and I should say yes. And I'm going to grow my email list, or I'm going to get in front of these people. Or if I say no, they'll never ask me again. And then you get to a stage where you're like, yeah, this isn't aligned. And totally keeping the control of your calendar and working when you want to work is key.
Yes, so crucial.
So crucial. Thank you, Jordan. This has been a joy. Like I said, I'll pop all of your links in the show notes, and have a great rest of your year.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks so much again, Emma-Louise, for having me.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. I hope that you're feeling expanded to what's possible for you, motivated to take action, and inspired about how you can start to own your energy. I share even more tools and resources on my Introverts Only email newsletter. By signing up, you not only get early access to the Ambitious Introvert products and services, but you also get brand new podcast episodes delivered straight to your inbox every Monday, meaning you'll never miss your weekly dose of introvert-friendly inspiration. Sign up now at theambitiousintrovert.com/newsletter or click the link in the show notes. See you next week.